The China and Africa podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Africa-China Reporting Project at Wits University in Johannesburg. The ACRP promotes balanced, considered reporting on Africa-China relations through innovative training programs held throughout the year. More information at africachinareporting.co.za.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the China in Africa podcast. I'm Eric Olander, and as always, I'm joined by Cobus van Staden, a senior China-Africa researcher at the South African Institute of International Affairs in Johannesburg, South Africa. A very good morning to you, Cobus.
Good morning.
Cobus, we're going to talk about the China-Africa relationship today in a very different way, because most of the time when you and I discuss this over all these years on the show, China has been this inanimate thing, and Africa has been this inanimate thing. And you and I have struggled a lot with the words China and Africa. How do you describe a continent of almost 1 billion people and a country of 1.3 billion people with two simple words? It's impossible to do it. So we thought we'd go down to a much more personal, intimate, granular level, which is the human level. And oftentimes this relationship is simply devoid of humanity, because at the end of the day, this is really about two groups of people who are interacting with one another. And surprisingly, we don't actually see that much. Now, on YouTube, we are starting to see more of this. You recall, I think it was earlier this year, we interviewed a vlogger by the name of Zhao Huiling, who was born in Ghana. She's now living in Shanghai, and she's been doing these vlogs about Kenya, and it got a tremendous response, and there was a lot of this excitement that people were actually seeing the relationship on a person-to-person level. And today we're going to revisit that with another vlogger.
Yes, and Molly's work, as we'll introduce, does this amazing work where she actually puts together through video individuals from China and Africa and actually explains kind of complicated cultural issues and clarifies the on a human level what the interaction between China and Africa actually looks like on a daily basis.
So her name is Fyjo Molly. Fyjo in Chinese is Africa. She is a vlogger and a blogger and a kind of content creator based in Johannesburg, originally from Beijing, China. She's been in South Africa for 3 years now, originally from Beijing, and she's been vlogging since March. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much, Molly, for joining us.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Cobus. How are you?
Oh, we're great, and it's really fantastic to have you on the show, just because you have a video series that is unlike anything I've ever seen. As Cobus said, it's very personal. It's very, almost intimate, this kind of raw, unpolished interaction between Chinese and Africans. And I'm just so excited to have you on the show. What I thought we would do is start off first with an introduction of tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you came to South Africa and your interest in Africa and why you decided to start vlogging, of all things, and particularly on YouTube.
So about myself, basically, I started, my background is in TV and film productions. And I studied TV film productions in the UK. And I worked for European TV networks for almost about 10 years. So previously, before I started with my YouTube videos, this is what I've been doing. And so Africa is somewhere that I always interested in, and I always wished that one day I would get the opportunity to visit Africa. So it's about 3 years ago, or about even earlier than that, my husband started talking about this opportunity, getting transferred to office in Africa. And back then, we didn't really know, in which country of Africa we're going to go. But just this idea of going to Africa, that there's an opportunity to live in Africa, that excites me. So, of course, I'm very receptive of that idea. So I kept telling my husband, let's try to get this opportunity and so on and so on. And back then we were living in Germany, actually. And, when you're living in Germany and thinking about going to Africa, and back then I never been to Africa, actually. And this is a huge change for us. So there was a period of time, we're thinking, oh, okay, so this is the idea. Just slowly, we're making this idea came true. And we finally really moved to South Africa. And this is a surprisingly beautiful, beautiful, and wonderful country. So ever since we moved here, we've been in love with Africa. So this is basically my journey, yes.
So when you arrived, what were some of your first impressions, and how did kind of living here actually lead to you starting to decide to blog in the first place and then to video blog particularly?
Because we chose to come to Africa, so that was our motivation. So when the first time we arrived here, already this is a place that we dream to be. That's already we got the foundation of our attitude and motivation to integrate with this culture, to absorb everything from here, because this is a very exciting opportunity for us. So when I was first here, everything was new. It was very, very exciting time. And also, in Johannesburg, the weather is superb. We came from Hamburg, and Hamburg was 300 days in a year is winter. And when we first arrived here, just the sun, the brightness in the sky, it delights you. And so when we first arrived here, I found people are very relaxed and very friendly. So everything was great. The first impression was really, really good. So So after a while, I think we moved here. It's only after I think after 1 year, we slowly adjust to the life here. The rhythm here. And I start thinking about maybe I should do something, videos. But I didn't think about YouTube. Back then, my idea of YouTube was something very immature. Because I come from a more, I studied this, I always thinking about I should make a film or something. But I already got the idea that I should produce content, professional content, just about the life here. Because back home, for example, in China or outside of Africa, not so many people know how exciting this place is. Because when you just watching news from the mainstream media, listen to what's going on from the mainstream media, your impression of Africa is basically just wildlife and poverty. So after a while I lived here, I realized this is not what I've learned about Africa, and this is a much, much more exciting place. So that's how the idea came that I should create content here to introduce this culture, this wonderful place to, the real Africa to people outside here.
Well, it is really diverse, the journey that you take people on. I'm looking at your YouTube channel right now, and you've gone to Ethiopia, Zambia, obviously a lot in South Africa, and you've immersed yourself in food and music and different parts of communities, not just obviously in one part of Johannesburg. You've gone to Soweto, you've gone to some of the slums, and you're really trying again to show this very, very positive side. And I have to be honest with you, it is remarkable to see how fearless you are about immersing yourself into all sorts of different cultures and communities and interacting with people. Let's talk about your videos. Each video of yours starts with this just great opening. Let's take a listen.
Fyjo Molly. Fyjo Molly. Subscribe. Well done.
So right off the bat, you get that Chinese-African feel to it, and you really are mixing both cultures. What we're going to do now is kind of take people along a journey with you on some of the clips, and we're going to play a couple clips and get your reaction to it. First, we're going to do your dance clip, and this was one that you did about 5 months ago, how Africans dance like the Chinese, and there was an interaction about 2/3 the way through the clip where, again, there was this kind of awkwardness, but that you turned into a very funny. Let's take a listen.
Nihame. Konnichiwa.
That's Japanese.
Oh, is that
Okay.
Japanese? So, shishini, nihame. Yeah, I think those are the few words I know how to say. So, shishini.
Yes, do you know what that means?
Is that hello or goodbye or how are you doing? Nihame is how you doing, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, shishini is hello.
Xixini's, thank you.
Oh, so
when you bow like that, you say.
Xixini.
Ooh, it's very good. Very good.
Oh,
very
thank you so much.
Impressive. Where did you learn it?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour.
In the plane with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. Xixini.
Cobus, where would we be without Rush Hour and Jackie Chan? But it was to me that's such a wonderful video, because in a lot of other places, especially if you're mixing Chinese and Japanese, people can get a little bit sensitive about that. Those are two cultures you really don't want to mix, but you handled it so just smoothly and with a lot of fun that it was. And tell us a little bit more about that experience of shooting the dance troupe and creating that video.
Oh, that actually. It came with an accident, actually very coincidentally. One day I was, so the story has to back to about 2 years ago. I produced a commercial for Air China, and for that commercial I met this dancer called Michelle. And I got to know her, so I got her contact, I follow her on Instagram, but we haven't talked for a while. And then this one day I was browsing on my Instagram and saw her publishing a short clip of a dance routine. Basically, the dance routine is what you see from this video. Is this like a Chinese choreograph that she prepared for a Japanese, actually, event opening. So I saw this choreograph. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I didn't know that she knows so much about Asian dance and Asian art. So I started to talk to her on Instagram, and she said, this is just what we created for this event. And I said, is it possible that I make a video with you? Because this is very exciting event. And so basically I just went and filmed their a choreograph, like when they're practicing. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you mentioned that you met up with her on Instagram. What are some of the other ways that you find the people that you work with?
So it's very random. Whenever I meet people, I see they have something to do with China, and I see the imagery of that. And I would always ask them if they would be interested in doing a video with me, because I'm doing this YouTube video introducing culture, blah, blah, just introduce to them to my concept. Most people, they like what I do, and they would be saying, okay, I'm interested, let's do it together. So that's what you find here, something very positive, because here people are very open. They are not like certain cultures. People are more reserved. If you say, "Oh, I want to do a video with you," they would be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm not very good on camera. I'm not sure." Blah blah. But here, people are very open to.
You're talking about your own people there, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
Talking about Chinese absolutely is part of this culture, but not just Chinese. I mean, most people, I would say. Most people, but the most open people with the greatest openness is the people I found in Africa, actually.
You need to come shoot in America. You put a camera up on the street in America, and everybody flocks to it like a moth, like a flame. So you're not wrong, though. In Africa, it's the same way. But in Asia, it's very, very different.
But, here, people not just being open, they're also very natural. When they come to your camera, when they say, all right, okay, just come along and join us. And they wouldn't start acting like they're on camera. They're just being themselves and quite relaxed. They're just comfortable with the camera over there. And they're happy about that. They would like to share whatever going on in their life, or the story they are telling. The great sense of, sharing. That's what they have and what I love about this place. It's so easy to make video here.
It's really remarkable because you have captured that so well. And let's keep going to another one of the videos that you did. And I think
by the way, so you were talking about this Japanese, Chinese thing, right? So actually, I didn't find that was like offensive or something. I just find it funny. You come to this place, you know that people don't know much about China. You wouldn't approach someone, start talking Chinese to someone, and you you you're expecting them to speak to you in Chinese back, right? So this is Africa. People don't know much about China. But when people do say something about China, it's always a surprise for me. Even they don't know, they can't tell Chinese from Japanese apart. But I think it's a learning progress. People has to start from somewhere. And that's what I want to do, actually, to educate people a little bit more of what is in China, what is Africa. So I like to have opportunity like that.
Yeah, it's very similar in China where, most people think that foreigners are English speakers from the United States or UK, and they say, hello, how are you? And yet, obviously not all foreigners and not all white people are English speakers. So it's very similar in that sense that people just make an assumption based on what they see. But part of your videos, and one of the theme of your videos, is almost a travel guide where you're taking people on these journeys. When you went to Zambia, you showed people how to go to the falls, and they went on your journey. And then in Soweto, which is, again, a major tourist destination in Johannesburg, that when I was there, a lot of people go there, but not a lot of Chinese people, I imagine, go to places like Soweto. And so it was very interesting when you went there, and you just kind of, again, in all of your videos, you just throw yourself in 100%. Let's take a listen of your visit to Soweto in Johannesburg.
Hi everyone, today we have a very special episode delivered for you from the infamous Soweto. Soweto is one of the most well-known townships in Johannesburg and also a recent popular tourist destination. Today we have a beautiful lady here with us, Faith. Hi Faith, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Very well.
Good.
So now we're in front of her beautiful house in Soweto. And Faith is an indigenous Sowetonian. So today with her together, we're going to discover the unique lifestyles and memories from Soweto, the heart and soul of Johannesburg. Let's go.
So how did you meet Faith? Tell us about that.
So Faith is a friend of a friend, actually. So she got to know what I do through this common friend. And she's also interested in joining my video. But at the beginning, actually, I started talking to her about 2-3 months ago already. And she was interested in joining my videos, but she was a little bit shy. So there's a sort of something that is not sure if she really want to do this or not, although she want to do, but the other hand, she's hesitant because she's a little bit shy away from camera. But eventually, I think we just got the point and saying, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. This is going to be fun. So she invited me to her house, and we started all this, Soweto culture tour of how she grew up, what kind of food she eat, and also the neighborhood, how lovely and friendly these people around her.
So it's, as Eric mentioned, there's a lot of tourism development happening in Soweto, but it's generally not really targeted to Chinese tourists. Have you seen, what kind of reactions have you seen from Chinese tourists in the comments and your interactions with them? And do you get a sense that you're introducing them to parts of Africa that they didn't know about?
So the first time I went to Soweto was I went along with one of this tourist bus. They offer these small taxis like minivans, and they give a tour around Soweto. But that time, I think the tour was something really superficial. Basically, they drive you around in this bus and they took you to some tourist spots, and you get off and you take pictures, and then you hop on and then you go into the next spot. So that's the tour I had as a Chinese tourist. But on that tour, apart from me, the rest of the people in the bus was all white people, like Europeans, basically. So I don't think there's lots of Chinese people that would be interested in touring around in such neighborhoods. They would be concerned about safety And second, they would be concerned about the language. And also, there is not so much attraction to Chinese tourists, I suppose. So that's the first tour I got in Soweto. But this video I made is not, I think it's something very different from if you would take a minibus taking a tour in Soweto, because this is basically introducing a real life, and you get to know someone personally from Soweto. Because if you just go in with a tour bus, you don't know anyone. You go in basically like you going to a safari ride. You're just looking at the whatever going on along the way, and then you come out without getting involved with any part of the culture.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is, again, like a safari ride, and I think that's a very interesting metaphor to put it there. Let's go on to our last clip where you kind of move into the world of fashion. And fashion is one of those fascinating areas that we haven't seen a lot in the fusion of Chinese and African cultures, in the pop culture at least, very much. But you went to a design house, and the mission was you were going to a wedding, and you had to wear something fusion African was the theme of the wedding. So you, being Chinese, of course, said, okay, I'm going to mix some African patterns and colors with the traditional Chinese qipao dress. And that is if you've seen those dresses, they have a long slit on the side, and they're very short, and they're absolutely stunning. And this is your interaction with the designer of the dress.
A masterpiece of the fusion of two cultures. You have the zebra line here, the flower, the Africanness, and the dress. Just see this part, you know already this is an Asian Chinese design.
I think also Southern Africa, we're beginning more and more to discover our own specific culture. And South Africa having 11 languages and 11 cultures, yes. We are each celebrating each part of that culture. Yeah. So this is an exciting moment, and if it gives us an opportunity for Molly to wear a portion of our culture, we also feel honored.
The way we view traditional culture, where I think we have the same path. Like even from 20 years ago, at that time, Chinese society still viewing the traditional things was shameful.
Oh, yes.
Because everybody wants to get things from America.
Absolutely.
They want to have the biggest one on the billboard, on the advertisements.
Yeah.
But it's all like a Western style
yes,
things.
Absolutely.
You wear Nike, Adidas. That was cool
Absolutely.
for us. Nobody wants to wear traditional
No.
It's like if you wear one to any occasion, they would laugh at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, how was your dress received at the wedding?
Oh, actually, people surprised that I wear that dress, but people also like sending compliments all the time, saying, "Oh, how nice your dress is." But actually, I actually use the wedding as an excuse to make a specific dress. I mean, I could go to the wedding with just a normal dress. Nobody would complain. But I think it was a great opportunity to elaborate on that creativity. You know, I have this idea in mind that such dress, African Chinese fusion dress, would look beautiful. So I utilized that wedding as an opportunity to really go ahead to realize this idea. So that's what I did. So basically, I saw this store in Rosebank in one of this commercial area in Johannesburg. And I went in, I said, I want to make this dress, like their dress, the shop is selling only African dress, actually handmade, tailor-made African dress. I said, would you be interested in making a dress with also Chinese element, like having a fusion type of personal design for me? And then I talked to the owner. She's very, very open-minded lady. Her name is Nozipo. So she's like, oh, I love this idea. Let's work this out. So that's how I collaborated basically with her. And surprisingly, that type of dress. So after she made this video with me, and she got even more idea of how to different type of dresses, also like combine Chinese design and African fabrics. And she made even more prints of that. And the dress, she told me the dress was selling really well. And even one of dress was used by one of this high-ranking official's wife. And this dress got basically lots of publicity. And she sent this picture to me. And I was really, really amazed by how people love such design. There's like a combination of different cultures, and people people are not close-minded, thinking this culture belongs to us and that culture belongs to you. People are very receptive of this fusion, a combination of different culture, the communications. So I love about that.
Yeah, I found that. I loved that video. It was really interesting. I really like how you frequently work with African creatives. Different kind of creators of fashion, for example.
Yes.
You also use music a lot in your videos. How do you choose music? Like, what kind of music? Like, what are some of the criteria that you use when you choose it?
Music is a huge part in my video. So people sometimes, when they watch videos, they think the music is just the background. But for me, music is half of the video. Music is like a perfect way to present your theme and the culture background. So I always spend lots of time searching for the right kind of music. So it has to matching the theme of the video that I'm doing, and also it has to match the rhythm of the video that I'm doing. You can't have very quick, like a fast beat and loud music with a quiet conversation. So I usually spend lots of time searching for videos for music.
So your videos are beautiful. We love the tone and the vibe of them. They haven't really found a big audience yet. You have a few hundred subscribers, and definitely they're growing. But it strikes me as a little bit surprising that you would choose YouTube as the main platform and not, say, a Chinese social network. You do subtitle your videos in Chinese, so they are accessible to both an international and a Chinese audience. Why did you choose YouTube and not, say, put it onto Youku or onto WeChat or some of the more popular platforms? Because you seem like you're talking a lot to Chinese people.
I want my audience to be global. I don't want to focus just on Chinese. And also there are a huge number of Chinese, they do watch YouTube. So I do got lots of Chinese viewers, but I don't want to limit it to that. I want to have an international audience for my videos. I want them to see Chinese are interested in Africa, in the culture, in the people, and Chinese love Africa genuinely. It's not like what lots of the Africans they get from the mainstream media. You always see, Chinese minors or undereducated Chinese. They come to exploit Africa. They come to do bad things, humiliate people in Africa. It's not true. It is true, but it's only a small part of the story. There's other side of the story, which is you see other group of Chinese people who are interested and genuinely love Africa, and they want to take care of this place.
Yeah, it's so sorry, just I lost my train of thought. It's as you point out, the Chinese presence in Africa is really complicated. And we've obviously been exploring it for many years, and it touches on a billion different aspects. How do you choose what kind of aspect or what subject matter you want to focus on next?
Normally, I like to when I choose a story, I don't have a frame, I don't have rules that I only do stories on this and that. First, I need to look at the person that I'm doing the video with. They need to have a good character. They have a great personality, a big personality. This is someone that is special and unique. And second, that they have a story to tell. A story best to be like, I have part of African culture to offer to you that, not many people know about. Or I have part of Chinese story I need to tell you. This is not what you see in the mainstream media. Or I have a story that I have experience of the cross-culture communication. Basically, you're looking for angles to discover stories which are not told before, which is also personal.
Fyjo Molly is a Chinese vlogger based in Johannesburg, used to live in Germany, and is a fantastic storyteller. You can find her videos on YouTube. We're going to have links to all of the videos in the show notes. Apologize to our Chinese viewers in advance who will then log on to our website, because you will probably not be able to see those videos without a VPN. So turn on the VPN and then you can watch those YouTube videos. So in addition to YouTube, where else can people find you if they want to follow what you're doing and all your adventures that you're up to?
I publish all my videos on YouTube. Other than that, I also use Instagram. And if I have new updates, I always put on my Instagram. Yes, but
and what's your Instagram name?
It's also Fyjo Molly. It's the same as my YouTube.
And that is spelled Fyjo. That's how you kind of cheat the Fyjo. Fyjo, of course, again, in Chinese is Africa. And then Molly, Molly. We will, of course, have links to that as well. Congratulations on all the success in your first year of doing this. They are fantastic videos. There's really nothing like this, and I encourage everybody to go and check them out. They're very, very funky. I mean, they're different. They're off the, you take people off the beaten path, and I just love that as a storyteller. So thank you for doing such amazing work, and we're really excited to watch where you take us next.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cobus, I mean, the word that I kept kind of thinking about through her discussion and watching all her videos is just authenticity. I mean, she just oozes authenticity. There's just genuine goodness there. And when you watch her videos, she just throws herself into these situations. When she was eating Zimbabwe food and tasting it and trying these different things, that was great. When she's trying South African snacks, when she went to Zambia, even when she's struggling with cell phones in Ethiopia, you just have this sense that you're along the ride with her. And it's just a wonderful introduction, I think, to Africa, to African culture. And I think, again, it also shows a very different side of how the Chinese see the world. And I think a lot of people may be surprised to see someone like Molly out there being so adventurous because of the stereotypes. And she even alluded to this in her discussion about how conservative sometimes Chinese culture can be. So it is nice to show the diversity of, again, 1.4 billion people you simply can't wrap up into a single word.
Exactly. I also love how much she features young African creative people, because the creative industries in Africa as a whole, South Africa very strongly, they're really exploding. Music and fashion in Africa is really at the cutting edge of world music and world fashion. I think it's great that she's featuring that, and that she's actually found these kind of fun ways of actually working with these people to create something new. It's really inspiring.
So I hate to spoil a perfectly good conversation that has not involved politics, diplomacy, or soft power, but here we go at the end of the show. What she said, where she just said, you go up to people and you talk to them and they're willing to talk, really struck me, because it was this idea that I hope our friends in all of the diplomatic circles around the world are listening to this, where you can engage people. Soft power diplomacy and communicating is not actually that hard. And I think she demonstrates that. If you want to have a meaningful conversation and you come with the right intent, people are really willing to speak with you. And I think she's found that throughout Africa, people are extraordinarily open. And so when we see the difficulties that the Chinese are having in their public diplomacy initiatives, one has to think that the burden isn't necessarily on the African side, but it's definitely more on the Chinese side, because as she's shown, the African side is very receptive. And I just think there's a lesson here for Chinese diplomats across the continent about how to engage African stakeholders.
Yeah, I think you're really right. And it's not only in the willingness to talk to people and the willingness to kind of be vulnerable and to jump into an unpredictable situation that you can't 100% control, which is one of the reasons why risk-averse diplomats tend to avoid this kind of thing. But it's also a willingness to engage with different kinds of technology, and looking at platforms like YouTube and other kind of social media platforms as ways where you can actually create these kind of meetings. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting project.
So this is the second vlogger we featured on the show. Again, the first one was Zhao Huiling. We'll put some links to hers in case you haven't heard that show that we did with her and some of the videos that she's posting up about her trips in Kenya and also in Ghana. And then I've run into a number of different YouTube vloggers of Africans who are in China. And they are studying there, and there's a whole culture of that we'd like to explore as well. So we're starting to see now more and more on social media young people expressing themselves in ways that really challenge some of the prevailing narratives that are done by, Cobus, I'm going to date you and I, but the olds. We have this narrative, oftentimes journalists who kind of parachute in or whatnot are carrying a lot of baggage with them on, narratives, embedded stereotypes, all of these caricatures. And I love the energy that's coming from this younger generation of vloggers and bloggers and content creators on all these different platforms, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, WeChat, any of them. And how they are bringing a lot of diversity to the narrative. And I really recommend that you take some time to look at both Zhao Huiling and also Fyjo Molly's, their different channels, because these are fantastic channels and they really are very exciting to watch, particularly from a Chinese point of view. So that'll do it for this edition of the China in Africa podcast. We'll be back again next week with another show. Until then, make sure you sign up for our email newsletter. It goes out every Friday. And Cobus now is writing this great little summary of the week. I put together some of the news and the top stories, and together we bundle that all up and send it out. We're up to, almost at 4,000 subscribers now, which is fantastic. And by the way, we got a flurry of subscriptions from Ohio in the United States. I have no idea. And I have a professor friend of mine. I'm like, did you assign this to one of your classes? And he said Ohio University, and he said no, he didn't. So he doesn't know where these subscriptions are. But welcome to all of our new subscribers in Ohio, in the United States. We're very excited that you are following along and listening to the podcast and getting our newsletter. We hope that people from other parts of the world as well sign up for the newsletter. You can just go to ChinaAfricaProject.com, and then you will see the signups that are there. So that'll do it for this edition. Cobus and I will be back again next week. For Cobus Van Staden, I'm Eric Olander. Thank you so much for listening.
The discussion continues online. Head over to facebook.com/China Africa Project to share your thoughts on today's show. The guys are also on Twitter, where you can find Cobus at Stadinsky or Eric at E. Olander. And be sure to sign up for the weekly China in Africa email newsletter by going to www.ChinaAfricaProject.com.